The unexpected mission. Captain Sarah Voss stood on the bridge of her ship, the SS Vanguard, staring out into the vastness of space. Stars twinkled like distant diamonds against the black void, but there was a weight in her heart that dimmed their beauty. Humanity was in danger, and Sarah felt the burden of that knowledge every day. The year was 2345. Earth had become a hub of progress and exploration, but it also drew the attention of those who sought to conquer. The Tylathians, a fierce alien coalition, were preparing to attack human colonies, and reports indicated they had set their sights on a small settlement on the outskirts of the Draxus Belt. It was a peaceful place, home to families and farmers, but it would not be able to withstand the Tylathian fleet. "Captain, incoming transmission from Central Command," called out Lieutenant Marcus, her trusted second-in-command. He adjusted his headset, his brow furrowing as he listened. "They're sending a warning about the attack. We need to get there fast." "Put it through, Marcus," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the growing urgency in her chest. The screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of General Reyes. "Captain Voss, we've detected Tylathian ships moving toward Colony 7. We need every available ship in the area to defend it. Can you reach them in time?" Sarah's heart raced. "General, we're already en route, but we're just one ship. We need more support." "Your mission is clear, Captain. You must delay the enemy until reinforcements arrive. You have the skills and the crew to do this. Trust your instincts." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah in silence. She turned to Marcus, who was already preparing the ship for departure. "What are our chances?" she asked. "With our stealth capabilities, we might be able to take them by surprise," Marcus replied, his fingers dancing over the controls. "But it's going to be tough." Sarah took a deep breath. She had always been a fighter, but doubts began to creep in. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Could they really protect the colony? "Gather the crew," she said, her voice firm. "We need to discuss our plan." A few minutes later, the crew gathered in the mess hall, the atmosphere tense. Each face reflected a mix of worry and determination. Sarah stood at the front, looking at the people she had trained and fought alongside. "Listen up, everyone. We have received word of an impending attack on Colony 7. Our mission is to delay the Tylathians until reinforcements arrive. I know we're just a single ship against a fleet, but we have something they don't: ingenuity and heart." Some crew members exchanged glances, doubt hanging in the air. Sarah knew they had faced challenges before, but this felt different. The stakes were high, and the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. "Captain, with all due respect, what if we can't hold them off?" asked Ensign Lucy, her voice trembling slightly. "What if we fail?" Sarah stepped closer, her gaze fierce yet understanding. "Failure is not an option. If we don't act, many innocent lives will be lost. We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for humanity. We can't let fear stop us." The room fell silent. Sarah took a deep breath and continued. "We can use the ship's stealth to our advantage. We'll engage the enemy from the shadows, striking when they least expect it. We'll need to work as a team, and I believe in each of you." Slowly, a sense of determination spread through the crew. Marcus nodded, a smile breaking through his earlier tension. "Let's show those Tylathians what we're made of." "Exactly," Sarah said, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. "Prepare the ship for launch. We're moving out now." As they worked, Sarah couldn't help but think of the families in Colony 7. She thought of the children who played in the fields and the parents who worked hard to build a future. They were depending on her and her crew to protect them. Once the ship was ready, the SS Vanguard powered up its engines, and Sarah took her place at the helm. The ship shuddered as they broke free from the docking station, heading toward the stars. The universe was vast and beautiful, but right now it felt daunting. "Plot a course for Colony 7, Marcus," Sarah instructed, her focus unwavering. "Aye, Captain," he replied, fingers dancing across the console. The ship veered toward the coordinates, and they sped through the emptiness of space. As they approached the colony, Sarah's heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement. She knew that they were about to face their greatest challenge yet, but in her heart, she felt a flicker of hope. They were not just a lone ship in a vast galaxy. They were a team, and together they could make a difference. "Hold on tight, everyone," she called out as they neared Colony 7. "We're about to enter the storm." With the calm before the chaos settling around them, the crew of the SS Vanguard prepared for battle. The fate of Colony 7 rested on their shoulders, and they were ready to fight for humanity. Into the fray, the SS Vanguard cut through the void, its engines humming steadily as they approached Colony 7. Sarah Voss stood at the helm, her hands gripping the controls tightly. The swirling colors of nearby nebulae danced in the ship's viewport, but her mind was focused on the mission ahead. "ETA to Colony 7 is 5 minutes," Marcus announced, his voice steady despite the tension. "We should scan for enemy ships." "Do it," Sarah replied, her heart racing. Every second counted. The ship's sensors came alive, filling the bridge with data and readings. The crew watched the screens intently, searching for any sign of the Tylothians. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and the quiet beeps of the consoles echoed like the heartbeat of the ship. "Captain, we have a contact," Marcus said suddenly, his eyes widening. "It's a cruiser big one. They're less than 2 clicks from the colony." "Is it just one?" Sarah asked, a sense of dread creeping in. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. "Negative. Scanning. I count 3 cruisers and several smaller ships," Marcus reported, his voice dropping. "They're closing in on the colony." Sarah's heart sank. 3 cruisers. This was worse than they had anticipated. "We can't let them reach the colony. We have to engage them before they attack." The crew exchanged glances, anxiety evident on their faces. Sarah felt their fear, but she pushed it aside. They had trained for this. They had prepared for battle, and now was the time to act. "Prepare weapons," she commanded, her voice firm. "We'll hit them hard and fast. Marcus, plot an intercept course. We'll come in from behind them. They won't see us coming." The crew sprang into action, their movements synchronized like a well-oiled machine. The tension in the air shifted from anxiety to determination as they readied the ship for battle. Sarah could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She was ready to fight for humanity. As they approached the Tylothian fleet, Sarah's mind raced. She recalled the training exercises, the strategies they had practiced. But nothing could truly prepare her for the reality of war. "Remember our tactics," Sarah reminded the crew, her voice calm yet resolute. "We focus on one ship at a time. Disable their weapons before they can fire on us." "Understood, Captain," Marcus replied, his eyes locked onto the screens. "We're entering range." Sarah took a deep breath and steadied her nerves. "All right, everyone. This is it. Let's show them what humanity can do." With a flick of her wrist, she initiated the attack sequence. The ship's weapons systems hummed to life, and the SS Vanguard surged forward, a gleaming beacon of hope against the darkness of space. "Firing weapons," Marcus shouted as the ship unleashed a torrent of energy bolts toward the nearest Tylothian cruiser. The bright beams of light cut through the void, striking the enemy ship with precision. The Tylothians were caught off guard. Explosions rippled across their hull as they scrambled to respond. The cruiser's defenses flared up, but it was too late. The SS Vanguard had already landed a critical hit. "Direct hit." Marcus cheered, but the celebration was short-lived. The remaining cruisers turned their attention to the Vanguard, their weapons charging for retaliation. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah commanded, her heart pounding. She pulled back on the controls, steering the ship sharply to the right. The crew held on as the ship veered away from enemy fire. "Captain, they're targeting us," shouted Ensign Lucy, her eyes wide as she monitored the scanners. "Incoming missiles. Brace for impact." Sarah yelled. She tightened her grip, guiding the ship through a dangerous dance of evasion. The missiles raced toward them, leaving trails of light in their wake. Just as they were about to make contact, Sarah executed a roll maneuver, sending the SS Vanguard into a sideways spin. The ship shook violently as the missiles exploded behind them, but they emerged unscathed. "Nice moves, Captain," Marcus exclaimed, a mix of relief and excitement in his voice. "Keep firing at the lead cruiser," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We can't let them regroup." The crew responded, unleashing another barrage of energy bolts at the Scythian fleet. This time, they struck with deadly accuracy, hitting the cruisers hard. Explosions rocked the enemy ships as chaos erupted in their ranks. "We're causing confusion among their fleet," Marcus shouted, a grin breaking through his tension. "They're losing formation." "Good. Keep it up," Sarah urged, feeling a spark of hope. They were making progress. Maybe they could hold the line after all. But just as they gained the upper hand, a message crackled through the system. "Vanguard, this is General Reyes. We're route with reinforcements, but we need you to hold for a few more minutes. Can you do it?" "We'll do our best, General," Sarah replied, determination flooding her voice. "Just hurry." As the battle raged on, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She was fighting not only for her crew, but for the lives of the people on Colony 7. She could not let them down. "Captain, the lead cruiser is trying to flank us," Lucy warned, her fingers flying over the controls. "Adjust course, Marcus. We need to intercept," Sarah commanded, her heart racing. They couldn't let the Scythians gain any ground. With each passing moment, the stakes grew higher. Sarah knew they were up against overwhelming odds, but she refused to back down. They were humanity's defenders, and she would fight for every soul on that colony. "Steady now," she murmured, her eyes focused on the enemy ships ahead. "We're not done yet." As they charged forward into the fray, Sarah could feel the tide of battle shifting. They had come this far, and they would fight to the very end. The SS Vanguard would not falter. They would stand together, and together they would prevail. The turning tide. The SS Vanguard maneuvered through the chaos of battle, each heartbeat echoing the ship's pulse. Sarah Voss stood resolute at the helm, her eyes fixed on the fleet as they regrouped, their ships shifting into a more defensive formation. The urgency of their situation pressed down on her like a heavy weight, but she refused to show fear. "Captain, we're detecting a new wave of fighters launching from the cruisers," Lucy reported, her voice tense. "They're moving to engage us." "Deploy our own fighters," Sarah ordered, feeling a surge of determination. "We need to hold them off until General Reyes arrives with reinforcements. Marcus, keep us steady and ready to engage the cruisers." "Yes, Captain," Marcus replied, his fingers flying over the controls as he communicated with the hangar bay. As the Vanguard's fighter escorts launched into the fray, Sarah's heart raced with adrenaline. She watched as the small ships zipped past her view, their pilots ready to defend humanity with every ounce of courage they had. She knew the stakes. They were all fighting for the survival of Colony 7. "Fighters have engaged," Marcus shouted, excitement in his voice. "They're holding off the forces." Sarah nodded, but her attention remained focused on the larger ships. "We need to take down at least one of those cruisers. Lucy, give me targeting data on the closest one." "Right away, Captain," Lucy replied, her fingers dancing over her console as she pulled up the ship's targeting systems. The nearest cruiser loomed large on the screens, its massive hull bristling with weaponry. Sarah could see the damage they had inflicted earlier. Flames flickered along its side, but it was still operational. If they could disable it, they might lose their foothold in the battle. "Target acquired," Lucy announced, firing solution locked in. "Fire," Sarah commanded, her heart pounding in her chest. The Vanguard's cannons unleashed a barrage of energy bolts, striking the cruiser with explosive force. The ship shuddered as the weapons connected, and the returned fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. Evasive maneuvers, Sarah yelled as the ship rocked from the impacts. She gripped the controls tightly, steering the Vanguard through a series of sharp turns to avoid enemy fire. Marcus, I need more speed. Pushing the engines to maximum, Marcus replied, sweat beading on his forehead. The ship surged forward, allowing them to dodge incoming fire just in time. As they closed in on the cruiser, Sarah could see the panic among the crew. Their ship was crippled, but they were still trying to fight back. Energy bolts flew past the Vanguard, but Sarah remained focused. Prepare to board, she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. The crew exchanged glances, a mix of determination and fear evident in their expressions. Captain, are you sure about this? Marcus asked, his brow furrowed. Boarding a cruiser is dangerous. I know, Sarah replied, her gaze unwavering. But if we can take their ship, it could turn the tide of battle. We can't let them regroup and hit Colony 7 again. Understood, Captain, Marcus said, steeling himself. I'll set a course for their hangar bay. Lucy, prepare a boarding party. Get our Marines ready, Sarah instructed, her heart racing with anticipation. She had trained her crew for this moment, and now it was time to act. As they approached the cruiser, Sarah could see its hangar bay opening, a desperate attempt to launch more fighters. Marcus, disable their hangar doors. On it, Marcus shouted, adjusting the targeting systems. A moment later, the Vanguard fired again, striking the hangar and causing an explosion that sent debris flying. The hangar doors crumpled, sealing off their escape. Now, let's go, Sarah urged, adrenaline surging through her veins. With the Vanguard locked into place, Sarah led her team through the airlock, her heart pounding. They stepped into the dimly lit corridor of the Sci-Fi cruiser, the metallic walls echoing their footsteps. Stay alert, she whispered, her voice low. We don't know how many are left on board. As they moved through the ship, Sarah's senses heightened. The smell of burning metal and smoke filled the air, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the corridors. They turned a corner and came face to face with a group of Sci-Fi soldiers. Contact, one of her Marines shouted. Engage, Sarah yelled, her instincts kicking in. They opened fire, the sounds of blaster shots ringing out as the Sci-Fians returned fire. The fight was fierce, but Sarah and her crew were determined. They were fighting for their home, for Colony 7. Amid the chaos, Sarah spotted an access panel leading deeper into the ship. This way, she shouted, motioning for her team to follow. They ducked and dodged through the firefight, adrenaline propelling them forward. Finally, they reached the ship's command center, the heart of the Sci-Fi cruiser. Sarah kicked open the door, revealing a room filled with blinking lights and Sci-Fi officers scrambling to respond. Hold your fire. We're taking control, Sarah declared, her voice firm. The Sci-Fi officers froze, confusion evident on their faces. Sarah and her crew had the advantage, and they were not going to let it slip away. Step away from the controls, she ordered, her weapon trained on them. The officers complied, fear evident in their eyes. As her team secured the room, Sarah quickly assessed the control systems. She had no time to waste. They had to turn the ship against its former crew. Marcus, can you access their weapons systems? She asked, her heart racing. Give me a moment, he replied, fingers flying over the console. The tension in the room was palpable, and Sarah could feel the weight of their situation. The fate of Colony 7 rested in their hands. Come on, she urged, glancing back at the door. She knew that Sci-Fians would not be down for long. They would soon regroup and attempt to retake the ship. Finally, Marcus shouted, I've got control of their weapons. We can fire on the remaining cruisers. Excellent. Prepare to engage, Sarah commanded, a fierce determination flooding her veins. As they took control of the Sci-Fi cruiser, Sarah could feel the tide of battle turning in their favor. They were no longer just a lone ship fighting for survival. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they would not back down. Let's show them what humanity can do, Sarah declared, the spirit of defiance igniting within her. Together, they would fight for their home and secure humanity's place among the stars. A clash of titans. The newly commandeered Scylathian cruiser, now under the control of the SS Vanguard crew, floated ominously amidst the chaos of battle. Sarah Voss stood at the command console, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and determination. They had taken a crucial step forward, but the real test was yet to come. "Captain," Marcus said, his fingers dancing over the control panel, "the remaining Scylathian cruisers are regrouping. They've taken heavy damage, but are still operational." "Good," Sarah replied, glancing at the tactical display. The battle had taken a toll on both sides, but humanity had proven its mettle. "We need to keep up the pressure. Lucy, prepare our targeting systems." "Yes, Captain," Lucy responded, her eyes fixed on the screen. "I'm locking onto the closest cruiser." As the targeting systems whirred to life, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. It was not just her life at stake. It was the fate of Colony 7 and countless lives depending on their victory. "Ready when you are," Lucy said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Fire," Sarah commanded, her voice ringing with authority. The cruiser's weapons roared to life, unleashing a torrent of energy bolts. They struck the nearest Scylathian cruiser, which erupted in a brilliant explosion. For a moment, silence enveloped the area before chaos resumed, but the tide was turning in humanity's favor. "Nice shot," Marcus cheered, and Sarah allowed herself a brief smile. They were starting to gain ground, but they couldn't afford to be complacent. "Focus, everyone," Sarah reminded her crew. "We need to capitalize on this momentum." As the Vanguard engaged in combat, Sarah's eyes scanned the battlefield. The Scylathian fleet was not only regrouping, but also beginning to make tactical maneuvers. It was clear they were calling for reinforcements. "Captain, we've got incoming ships," Lucy shouted, pointing to the scanner. "More Scylathian reinforcements are entering the sector." "Great," Sarah muttered, feeling the adrenaline spike. "We have to deal with the cruisers first." Marcus engaged the next target. "On it," Marcus replied, sweat glistening on his forehead. The cruiser's weapon systems locked onto their next target, and once again, they unleashed a barrage of fire. The Scylathian cruiser returned fire, beams of energy slicing through space. Sarah guided the Vanguard with deft maneuvers, avoiding the incoming shots while ensuring her crew stayed focused. "Status of our fighters?" Sarah asked, glancing at Lucy. "They're holding their ground," Lucy responded, a hint of pride in her voice. "They've managed to take down a few Scylathian fighters, but they're outnumbered. Tell them to form up and cover our flanks," Sarah instructed. "We can't let the Scylathians break through." With renewed determination, the Vanguard pressed the attack, and Sarah felt the exhilaration of battle coursing through her. Each explosion, each successful hit, reminded her of why they were fighting. "Captain, we've got a new cruiser on our tail," Marcus warned. "They're trying to flank us." "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah shouted, gripping the controls tighter. "Prepare for combat." As the Vanguard dodged incoming fire, the Scylathian cruiser closed in, attempting to ram them. Sarah's instincts kicked in as she ordered, "Full power to the engines. Let's get out of their way." With a swift maneuver, the Vanguard twisted to avoid the collision, narrowly escaping the cruiser's destructive path. The ship rocked slightly, but they were still intact. "Now's our chance," Sarah yelled. "Return fire." The Vanguard unleashed a devastating volley of energy bolts, striking the Scylathian cruiser and causing it to shudder violently. The impact sent the ship spiraling, and for a moment, Sarah felt a rush of triumph. "Direct hit," Marcus shouted, excitement evident in his voice. "Keep it up. Don't let up now," Sarah urged. They were making progress, but the battle was far from over. Suddenly, a blaring alarm echoed through the ship. "Captain, we have a breach on the lower deck," Lucy reported, her voice laced with urgency. "Send a team to secure it," Sarah commanded. "We can't let them sabotage the ship." "On it," Lucy replied, quickly coordinating the response team. "Focus on the cruisers," Sarah reminded the crew. "We can't let this become a multi-front battle." As they engaged the remaining Sci-Fi cruisers, Sarah felt the weight of every decision pressing down on her. Each moment mattered. Each life depended on their success. The battlefield erupted into chaos, explosions and debris swirling around them. Sarah focused on the fight, determined to secure humanity's victory. "Captain, we've disabled one of their cruisers," Marcus shouted, his voice brimming with excitement. "Good work," Sarah encouraged, feeling the thrill of victory pulse through her. "Let's press our advantage. Focus fire on the remaining ships." The Vanguard surged forward, its crew rallying behind Sarah's commands. They had faced overwhelming odds, but now they stood a fighting chance against the Tylothians. "Get ready to launch a boarding party," Sarah ordered. "We can't let them regroup and retaliate." As they closed in on the last Sci-Fi cruiser, Sarah's heart raced. They were about to make history, a single ship turning the tide of battle against a powerful enemy. "Prepare for boarding," she shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. The boarder's valor. As the Vanguard approached the disabled Sci-Fi cruiser, Sarah Voss felt a surge of adrenaline. The time had come to seize the moment and prove that humanity would not back down. The crew's determination shone in their eyes as they prepared for the boarding operation. "Boarding teams, gear up," Sarah commanded, her voice steady yet filled with excitement. "We'll breach their hull and take control. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for everyone back home." "Ready, Captain," Marcus said, already donning his combat gear. The crew moved swiftly, checking their weapons and preparing their equipment for the mission. Each member felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that the outcome depended on their courage and teamwork. "Lucy, you'll be in charge of the ship's defenses while we're away," Sarah instructed. "Keep the Vanguard secure and monitor for any approaching threats." "I'll make sure no one gets through," Lucy replied, determination evident in her tone. Sarah appreciated her unwavering resolve. Lucy was a vital asset, and Sarah trusted her to hold the line. "Let's move out," Sarah said, leading the boarding team into the airlock. The atmosphere was tense, but there was an electric buzz of excitement as they prepared to board the enemy vessel. With a hiss, the airlock doors opened, revealing the darkened interior of the Sci-Fi cruiser. Sarah took a deep breath, then stepped through, her weapon raised and ready. The corridor stretched before them, lit only by dim emergency lights. It felt eerily quiet, and every step echoed through the silence. "Stay sharp," she whispered to her team. "We're on their turf now." As they moved cautiously through the cruiser, they encountered signs of the battle that had raged just moments ago. The walls were scorched, and debris littered the floor. Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. This was it, the moment they would turn the tide of the war. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed down the corridor, followed by a series of frantic shouts. "Contact," a voice called from further ahead. "Let's go," Sarah shouted, signaling her team to follow. They rushed down the corridor, weapons drawn, adrenaline pumping through their veins. When they reached the source of the commotion, they found a group of Sci-Fi soldiers attempting to regroup. Sarah's heart surged as she prepared for the fight. "Fire," she commanded, and her team opened fire. Energy blasts filled the air, illuminating the corridor with brilliant flashes of light. The Sci-Fi were caught off guard, and chaos erupted. "Push forward," Sarah yelled, leading the charge. Her heart raced as they engaged in fierce combat, each member of the team covering one another. They fought with unwavering resolve, driven by the desire to protect humanity. One by one, the Sci-Fi soldiers fell, their superior technology and tactics unable to withstand the sheer determination of the Vanguard crew. Sarah felt empowered by the strength of her team, and together they pressed on, room by room, clearing the cruiser of any remaining threats. "Keep moving. We need to secure the control room," Sarah urged as they pushed deeper into the cruiser. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the hallways, a stark contrast to the chaos of battle that surrounded them. As they approached the control room, Sarah felt a surge of hope. This was the heart of the ship, where they could take control and turn the tide of battle. The stakes were high, but the team's spirit was even higher. "On my mark," Sarah whispered as they reached the control room door. She activated the door panel, and it hissed open, revealing a room filled with advanced technology and startled officers. "Get ready," she shouted, and her team burst into the room, weapons raised. The surprise was palpable as they encountered a group of officers huddled around a console. "Defend the control room," one of them shouted, lunging for a weapon. "Stop," Sarah commanded. "Surrender, and no one will get hurt." But they did not comply. A fierce battle broke out in the control room, energy beams lighting up the space as both sides fought fiercely. "Cover me," Sarah yelled to Marcus as she made a bold move toward the control console. With quick reflexes, she dodged incoming fire, her heart pounding in her chest. In a swift motion, she reached the console and activated the ship's systems. She needed to disable the communications and control capabilities to turn the tide of the battle outside. "Lucy, can you tap into their systems from the Vanguard?" Sarah called out through her. "Working on it now." Lucy's voice crackled through the channel, focused and determined. "I'll override their systems." As Sarah fought off another attacker, she felt a surge of determination. The fate of Colony 7 depended on their success. The crew had come too far to let this opportunity slip away. "Hold them off," she shouted to her team, her eyes glued to the console as she navigated through the Sci-Fi system. She had to hurry. They could not afford to lose control now. "Almost there," Lucy's voice rang in her ear. "Just a few more seconds." With a final push, Sarah initiated a lockdown of the Sci-Fi cruiser's systems. Alarms blared as the ship's defenses powered down. "I did it," she exclaimed, relief flooding her. "Now let's finish this," Marcus yelled, rallying the team. With the Sci-Fi systems in disarray, Sarah and her team pressed their advantage. They fought with renewed vigor, driving the Sci-Fians back and seizing control of the cruiser. As the last Sci-Fian officer fell, the room fell silent. Sarah surveyed the control room, her chest heaving with exertion. They had done it. They had taken the heart of the enemy ship. "Secure the area," she commanded, her voice filled with pride. "We have to ensure the ship is fully under our control before we assist the Vanguard." The crew moved swiftly, taking stock of their victory and preparing for the next steps. They had proven their valor, standing tall against a formidable enemy. But there was still work to be done. As Sarah took a moment to catch her breath, she looked at her crew, each one ready to fight for humanity's future. They were not just soldiers. They were heroes, united in their mission to protect their home. With their hearts ablaze, they prepared to turn the tide of war. Together, they would show the galaxy that humanity could rise against any challenge. The tide turns. With the control room of the Sci-Fi cruiser now firmly in their grasp, Sarah Voss and her crew quickly assessed their situation. They had achieved a significant victory, but the battle was far from over. Outside, the echoes of conflict still roared as the Vanguard fought against the remnants of the Sci-Fi fleet. "Lucy, can you establish a connection with the Vanguard?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "On it," Lucy responded from the Vanguard, tapping into the ship's communications. "I'll patch us through." As the connection solidified, Sarah heard Captain Darius's voice crackle over the comms. "Sarah, report your status. We're holding our ground, but we need backup." "We've secured the control room," Sarah declared, a surge of confidence in her tone. "We're ready to assist. We can disable their ship systems and provide fire support." "Do it. We're counting on you." Darius's voice held a note of urgency, and Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "Okay, team, listen up." Sarah rallied her crew. "We need to tap into the Sci-Fi systems and disable their weapons. Lucy, can you create a diversion while we override their defenses? I can send out a false signal, making it look like we're retreating." Lucy replied, her voice filled with determination. "They won't know what hit them." "Great. Let's get started. We'll coordinate our attack with the vanguard." As Lucy worked to create the diversion, Sarah and her team prepared to take the fight to the rest of the Sci-Fi fleet. They understood the importance of this moment. The fate of their mission and the safety of Colony 7 depended on their actions. "Now," Lucy shouted, pressing a button on the console. A bright flash erupted on the Sci-Fi ship's external systems, simulating a critical failure. Alarms blared throughout the cruiser, and Sarah could almost hear the confusion on the other side. "Let's move," Sarah commanded, leading her team out of the control room. The corridor was now a hive of activity, with Sci-Fi crew members rushing to respond to the alarms. They were vulnerable. As they rushed through the ship, Sarah and her team encountered small pockets of resistance, but with the element of surprise on their side, they swiftly overpowered the Sci-Fians, driving them back with determination. The tide was turning. "Keep pushing forward," Sarah urged, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The excitement of battle coursed through the crew, each member pushing their limits to secure their victory. Meanwhile, on the Vanguard, Captain Darius coordinated with Lucy, who monitored the chaos unfolding on the Sci-Fi cruiser. "Status report." Darius barked into the comms. "They're in disarray. Their defenses are down, and they're responding to false signals." Lucy replied, her fingers dancing over the controls. "This is our chance to take out their remaining forces. Prepare to launch an attack," Darius ordered. "We need to strike while they're weak." As the Vanguard positioned itself for the offensive, Sarah's team reached the armory. They quickly gathered additional weapons and supplies, knowing that they would need every advantage in the battle ahead. "Let's get to the hangar," Sarah instructed, directing the team toward the ship's docking bay. "We can launch a surprise attack on their remaining fighters." Rushing through the corridors, they finally reached the hangar bay. Sarah looked around, her heart pounding. The bay was filled with fighters, their sleek designs waiting for pilots to unleash their wrath. "Let's take control of these fighters," Sarah said, excitement in her voice. "We'll show them that humanity will not back down." The team split up, quickly jumping into the cockpit of the nearest fighters. As Sarah strapped herself in, she felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were taking the fight to the skies. "Vanguard, this is Sarah. We're ready to launch," she announced overly, her voice steady. "Copy that. We'll cover you from above. Get ready for a fight," Darius replied. With a roar of engines, Sarah activated the fighter systems. The hangar doors opened, and she felt the rush of adrenaline as she sped into space. The stars stretched out before her, a battlefield filled with ships and the Vanguard engaged in combat. "Let's do this," Sarah shouted, her fighter joining the fray. The sky erupted in a kaleidoscope of colors, energy beams crisscrossing, explosions lighting up the dark expanse. Sarah dove into the chaos, her instincts guiding her as she maneuvered her fighter. The ships were disoriented, their formations breaking apart under the pressure of the surprise attack. "Watch your six, Sarah." Marcus's voice crackled in her earpiece. She could see him flying close behind her, his fighter weaving in and out of enemy fire. "I got it. Let's take out their command ship," Sarah replied, focusing on her target. She could see the larger vessel struggling to regain control amidst the chaos. "Firing missiles," she announced, unleashing a volley of missiles toward the command ship. They struck true, and the ship erupted in flames, sending shockwaves through the surrounding area. "Nice shot," Marcus cheered as they pressed the attack. The remaining fighters attempted to regroup, but the Vanguard and the boarding team were relentless. "Push forward. We need to finish this," Sarah shouted, her voice filled with determination. As the battle raged on, Sarah and her crew fought with everything they had. They were no longer just defenders. They were warriors, proving that humanity's spirit could overcome any challenge. With every victory, the tide of war shifted in their favor. They were united, their bravery lighting the way as they faced the enemy head-on. Together, they would show the galaxy that humanity would not be broken. No matter a new dawn. The last remnants of the fleet were vanishing into the depths of space, their ships crippled and drifting. Sarah Voss and her crew of the Vanguard had secured an unexpected and resounding victory. But the scars of battle still marked the starry expanse around them. Status report. Captain Darius's voice rang through his tone a mixture of urgency and pride. Enemy forces are retreating. Lucy announced, her voice filled with excitement. We've secured their command ship, and the remaining fighters are in disarray. Excellent work, team. Prepare for a full systems check and begin recovery operations. Darius instructed. We need to make sure they won't be a threat again. As the adrenaline of battle began to fade, Sarah took a moment to breathe. The sheer scale of their victory washed over her like a wave. They had faced an enemy that had threatened their very existence, and they had prevailed.